Joining me today is Greg Scheu, President of Americas of ABB, to talk about the Industrial Internet of Things. Welcome, Greg.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So let's get started right away. What's the difference in your view between the Industrial Internet of Things and IoT?
So the Industrial Internet of Things for us is a way of connecting devices. Obviously, a big play is through the cloud, much like we see in the business to consumer world. But the differences really are all the machinery, sensors, and things that are required in the plant sites, whether they be remote or local plant sites, to bring it all together, coupled with the security aspects that are needed on the industrial internet. But clear is the value being driven by increased productivity, predictable maintenance, looking at reliability, how to do modeling of plants to drive some type of business value creation through this connection and analytics.
Okay. What's the status of the Industrial Internet of Things today?
Well, we have a world in the industrial side that many things are connected. Typically inside of a plant you have architectures that include control systems, information flow that's already taking place today within the enterprise. So I'd say very active is a world that has a lot of automation, whether that be on various devices for actuation, on robot controllers, PLCs, DCS, and the like. What's happening now is remote connections to those devices, mainly more for the information flow. When we talk to our customers, what we see is some customers are reluctant to move real-time control out of the plant because of safety and various cybersecurity issues. But certainly information flow, if it can create value using the internet to move that information, maybe it's for remote diagnostics where we have an offshore platform or perhaps a marine vessel that's being operated to take a look at what is the performance, what are the various models we want to keep track of from a maintenance standpoint. We're seeing more and more of those remote connections. Much like in our robotics business, at ABB we have 250,000 robots working around the world in industrial applications. Being able to connect that robot, if it's in a remote site especially, and look at the performance of that robot, does it need maintenance, how long before it's going to have some type of preventive maintenance done on it, what is the performance of the robot, how much energy is it using, is it mechanically sound and safe in the things it's doing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, those are great examples. Do you have some examples of where IoT is not ready for prime time?
Well, I think what's happening is people are talking about the cloud facilitating so much data. And certainly, I don't think the data is going to be the challenge. I think it's really more to do with security, how to not have disruption in the operating conditions, especially from a safety standpoint, intrusion or somehow taking control of a process that would create type of unsafe practices. We see that a lot in the process industries where safety is so paramount. We're working on the grid, and certainly there's a certain amount of concern about how open access do you want to have the electric grid with our utility customers. So I think you have these challenges you have to work through, which are around safety, security, but certainly the technology can enable a lot more, and we're going to see things continue to move here. I met with a customer here at ARC yesterday that is doing real-time control with the Industrial Internet of Things in a processing factory. And I was, obviously they've figured out how to do it, but I was certainly impressed with how people are using technology, taking into consideration the different things that can be done from a safety and overall control standpoint.
So where should industrial businesses look to apply the Internet of Things today?
What I see happening is much like we saw in the smart grid the last 6 or 7 years, where ABB has been a leader as well, is trying to really look at the problems and the challenges that you have and using the ability to collect data and help answer those questions, help figure out better ways, better models in terms of driving performance, really getting into value creation, whether it be around uptime, reliability, various factors you want to keep an eye on to make your business stronger. So I think certainly remote sites, hard to get to sites where you're going to need some knowledge transfer between what the machines are doing and people that can get a window into what's happening will be the first place that we see this really start to ramp up. From there, I think the applications that we've learned on the business to consumer side in terms of simplification is going to play a part. How do you make it easy to get things done using the internet going forward? Will be another area that we see this happening, and there'll be these challenges that we all have around privacy of data, cybersecurity, safety, that we're going to have to work through step by step.
Right, and I think that's that's an area that we're all looking at as challenges. Sure. Can you think of some other challenges that you're looking?
Well, I think one of the challenges that I see is just getting away from some of the traditional models on how we look at things. The pace of innovation that technology is enabling right now, whether it be through the cloud, through services, through the connections and sensors, really I think is going to be phenomenal. If you look over the next 15 years, they're saying the GDP should have $14 trillion worth of additional GDP created from the Internet of Things, new business models. So I think it's also, while we have concerns and there's certainly obstacles to doing things, I think we have to push ourselves to dream about what this technology can enable. One of the challenges that I see is on the sensor side. You have investments that have been made for 10, 20, 30 years. Some of the equipment that's out there doesn't have all the sensing technology to be able to communicate. Putting those sensors in has to have a business case, but certainly the sensors today are available. One of the challenges is how far do you take that now? How much retrofitting do you do? Then you look at what's the reliability of the sensor versus the original equipment. If the sensor has a life, like your smartphone, that changes every 3 years, you're constantly going to be replacing sensors when the equipment may have a life of 20, 30 years. So this is also one of the challenges that I see customers are facing in terms of how do we deploy this and create value.
That's great. Well, thanks very much, Greg.
My pleasure.
I've been speaking with Greg Scheu, President, Americas ABB.